future!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Aski and we're going to be taking a look at the new cards announced for the Hearthstone Blackrock Mountain adventure.
Dragon's breath, teeth and claws and flame, calling any heroes out there that are brave!
So to kick us off, we have the only legendary card to be announced, Revenant Blackhand. Unfortunately, he's a pretty weak card. His battle cry uses a new mechanic where its effect only triggers if you're holding a certain type of card, in this case a dragon. Now the effect is that he'll destroy a legendary minion. Great on paper, but unfortunately as a whole card he just doesn't add up. First of all, he costs 7 mana, and this makes him a very inflexible form of removal, as unlike the big game hunter for example, he'll use most of the mana you have available. He's also not a great turn 7 play, as most of the popular legendaries that are 7 mana or less counter him really well. Sylvanas just steals him, Dr. Boom's Boombots will just kill him on the next turn, and so on. It's a no in Arena for sure, and unless we see some big shifts in the meta and control decks with lots of late game legendaries become more popular, it's a no in Constructed as well. Next up is the Blackwing Technician. A 2/4 for 3 mana isn't horrible, but if you can trigger its battle cry, which works in the same way as Blackhand's, it gets +1 health and attack, making it a 3/5, which is pretty good. The card is to Dragon decks what Tinkertown Technician is to mech decks. Obviously in other decks it's useless, but we'll have to wait and see how many new dragons we get in the adventure to see how well played this card will be. If we see plenty of new dragons, it becomes an easier battle cry to trigger than the Tinkertown Technician, so that's a bonus for it. And with 5 health you could easily make a 2-for-1 trade with it at this early stage of the game. The problem is that unless we get a number of new dragons, most of the ones currently in the game are 9 mana or more, and you'll definitely want to mulligan them at the start of the match, making having a dragon in your hand less likely. In Arena it's not terrible, as the stat line means it should still trade okay and maybe go 2-for-1 even without the battle cry, but it's certainly not the best choice. In Constructed it will be the Tinkertown tech of dragon decks, and I can't see it being used in much else. Our next card is the Hungry Dragon, and this is probably the most hyped card to be revealed. A 5/6 for 4 mana is brilliant. The 4/5 Yeti is seen as good, so it's a big jump up from that. However, its battle cry is to summon up a 1 mana minion for your opponent. This is clearly intended to be a drawback, but it could also have some potential to be used to your advantage. For example, turn 3 you Raging Worgen, turn 4 you Hungry Dragon. Now you can clear the 1-drop off the board with the Worgen, enrage it and then hit the face for 4 damage with the Wind Fury. You could use it as part of a mind control tech play to steal a minion by pushing them up to having 4 minions on the board. Having a weapon in play lets you clear that 1-drop easily, so it should work really well with rogue decks as well as warriors. You really want to play this dragon when you're in a position to remove the 1-drop on the same turn, so having a weapon in play or a minion on the board is great. If you leave it on the board it's still not terrible, but you do have the worry that the minion might get buffed or used against you in some other way. In the Arena I think this card will be really good. Even if you can't remove the 1-drop on that turn, it's still a reasonable play. In Constructed I can see this card making it into more than just dragon decks. In dragon decks it will be great. You can drop a buffed Blackwing Technician and then follow it up with a Hungry Dragon on the next turn. As for other decks, any that have a good chance of either having a minion on the board or a weapon in hand on turn 4 it will be really good in. Just think, on the next turn it could kill the Lotheb without dying. Next we have the Grim Patron. This is a 3/3 that will summon up another copy of itself every time it survives taking damage. So my first thought, along with pretty much everyone else's, was to run a warrior deck. Use their deal 1 damage +2 attack cards. Follow this up with things like Whirlwind, suddenly you have loads of minions on the board. Throw in a Warsong commander and they could all have charge as well. Other things like Bouncing Blade and the Mad Bombers could also combo really nicely to fill the board with these minions. I think this card will have some fun decks built around it, and it does have some pretty cool potential. In Constructed I think we're going to see some gimmicky decks running this card, and someone could very well come up with some great way to play it so it works well, but I can't see anyone climbing the ladder effectively with it. In Arena, 99% of the time it's going to be a very weak choice. Our last card is the Dark Iron Skolka. He's a rogue card that will deal 2 damage to all undamaged enemy minions and is a 4/3 for 5 mana. So you could compare him to a Consecration for example. He's just 1 mana more, and for that you get a 4/3 on the board, so that's pretty good. The condition of the AoE is that the minions are undamaged, and in the current meta I think this will work quite nicely, as there are quite a few aggro decks that have a lot of low health minions in them. It's also really nice to see the rogue getting a new control card. However, I don't think the rogue really has any lack of AoE at the moment, so I'm not sure how much help the Skolka could really be. But with that said, I would really like to see the rogue branch out a little into some other playstyles, and maybe this will help with some control based decks being created. In the Arena this card will be really great. It's pretty much that 5 mana consecration with a 4/3 minion I mentioned. In constructed it's okay, it really depends on if a new type of rogue deck can be created, as at the moment I don't think it will really fit in with the Aura rogue deck as that already has plenty of AoE. So those are the 5 new cards we know of so far. Let us know what your favourite is in the comments below. If you're looking for more information on Hearthstone, I recommend you check out the wiki over at hearthstone.gamepedia.com, which is linked in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but for now I've been ASCII, and thank you for watching.